Let's take our seats, please.
Art 101 with Mr. Burgher.
Scholars, welcome back to Art 101 with me, Mr. Burgher. I'm a professional artist and master educator, and I'm here to attempt to provide you with the best in art historical content. If you like the video, you like these other videos that I produce, go ahead and give me a like, a share, a subscribe, or any interaction goes a long way. I really appreciate it.
No matter what anybody tells you, words and ideas can change the world.
So it's that time of year again. It's that time of year where all of my teaching friends, colleagues are getting geared up, getting ready to get back in the classroom and provide really great content, really great art activities for the kids all around the country, all around the world. And I've got a lot of great friends that use this as a supplemental tool or an educational tool. To me, that's like super awesome. Anybody that wants to learn using Art 101 with Mr. Burgher as a educational tool, that's why it's here. But I digress a little bit. But I'm getting back in the classroom this year, and I'm super excited about it. And it makes me think about the teachers that really helped pave the way for me and really all art educators. And there's no other name that really jumps out at me more so than Josef Albers, an artist who really, a lot of what we do as art educators and art training really is founded on his methods of teaching and presentation. And it's pretty old school, but I think you'll appreciate it, especially if you like art, if you like art education, if you are interested in abstraction and the color theories and the things that he developed. It's really pretty fascinating. So thank you for joining me as we take a look at Josef Albers. Artist and educator Josef Albers was one of the major artists in the development of geometric abstraction and was a gifted mind that revolutionized many facets of the art world. Josef Albers began the path toward his greatness in art with the intentions of becoming an art educator, which he did. After attending a teacher prep school, he went to a teacher's training school in Burgher, Germany, where he received his teaching license.
Yes, Germany! Yes, very good. Let's talk about Germany.
By 1900, Germany was one of the biggest economic powers in the whole world. But by 1914, Germany was literally entrenched in World War I, just as Josef Albers was getting his start as an educator, and it wouldn't take long for World War II to be right on its heels. But I'm getting ahead of myself in the story just a bit.
Insubordinate and churlish.
He taught art at public schools for 5 years before continuing on to learn at the Royal Art School. He would say, "I was at the Royal Art School. That was a preparatory school specifically for art teachers. You see, it was not so much for the development of artists, but we had their terribly stiff training." He would become a fully certified art teacher in 1915. It was when he became an art teacher that he finally thought of himself as having made it as an artist. And as a teacher, he was absolutely great and had very high expectations for his students.
Discipline is not the enemy of enthusiasm.
When he was not in his classroom teaching, he continued to take classes at the Royal Bavarian Art Academy under Fritz von Stuck and Max Doehner. These are the same guys that trained other German artists such as Kandinsky and Klee. Later on, he would become a student at the famed Bauhaus, being taught by Johannes Itten, focusing his creative energies toward stained glass design and production. When Itten left the Bauhaus in 1923, it was Albers who was hired to take over some of his teaching assignments. A couple years into his tenure, he was hired as a full-fledged Bauhaus master. He was not only becoming known for his glasswork, but also his furniture design. He moved up to become assistant director of the Bauhaus in 1930, and in August of 1933, the Bauhaus was officially closed after the Nazi authorities under Adolf Hitler bullied them into surrender. Some of his American friends at the Museum of Modern Art arranged for him to come to the United States and begin a teaching job at the Black Mountain College in North Carolina. Now, I have a whole video on the Black Mountain College, you can check that out specifically, but essentially he arrives in the United States and the Black Mountain College to open the eyes of his students on November the 28th, 1933. And it would be there in 1934 where he would begin to work on some of his abstract oil paintings that would truly reshape the art world.
In my heart, I feel that a legend is about to be born.
He was very much motivated by Theo van Doesburg's De Stijl art movement, where the abstract ideas are really evolved from simple abstractions to line drawings, and this art would continue to evolve in a more and more broken down, simplified fashion. And eventually he would get to a certain point in 1939 where he would discover a new passion for art exploration and production. While he was teaching some classes on color at the Pratt Institute, he would start making some very simple line designs. This essentially would become the foundation for his most recognized art series that he would ever produce, called the Homage to Square. This series officially began in 1950, however, obviously it took a series of steps for him to get to that point. This particular work series had two major factors. The first factor was the square, or the framing of the work. He saw this as the inarguable foundation for all artworks. And secondly was the color. He wanted everyone to be able to see how the colors look on top of one another. In painting, mixing colors is a skill that all skilled painters need to perfect, as much as one can. Now, Albers completely broke that rule. He rarely, if ever, mixed colors, and oftentimes he would use colors straight out of a can or a tube. The first exhibition of these works was at a show called Josef Albers' Homage to Square. The show was sponsored by the International Council of the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and this exhibit opened up in March of 1964, and then traveled all over North and South America until January of 1967.
Whatever.
The research that he collected on color theory as he worked through the series was published in his Interactions of Color in 1963. In this he would state, repeated experiments with adjacent colors will show that any ground subtracts its own hue from the colors, which it carries and therefore influences. Although he is credited with creating many other artworks, his work with the Homage to Square series was ongoing until his death. And it was also around this time that Josef Albers, who was mostly known for drawing squares, would say, "I love very much to draw animals."
I can't guide you, but don't take any nonsense from these little tykes.
Josef Albers was many things, but he was first and foremost an educator. He told his students, "I am here to teach you to think and teach you to see." No matter how much money he made or what honors he had earned, he was always excited to pass along his knowledge to his students. Instead of art, I have taught philosophy. Though technique for me is a big word, I never have taught how to paint. All my doing was to make people to see. After he and his wife both became United States citizens in 1939, Mr. Albers had the opportunity to branch off and teach on some basis in many schools, including the University of Mexico, the University of Honolulu, the Cincinnati Art Academy, Harvard University, Yale University, and a boatload of others.
Can I get a little rumble from everybody? Everybody just rumble in your seats right now for me. Just rumble a little bit.
For me, he was really a model of an educator who was also a working professional artist, something that I strive and work to do myself. Some remember him as being somewhat outgoing, but generally speaking, he was a bit of a homebody. He went to work, spent time with his wife at home, and he went back to work. Some may say he was a bit antisocial, but basically he worked. He worked on his art, he worked on his relationship with his wife, and he worked as an educator. That was his wheelhouse. And it was this work ethic that earned him a great reputation as a great artist and one of the greatest art educators of all time. He even lectured at the International Congress for Arts Education, where he gave insights to his philosophy and methods of teaching. Most of what art teachers do today is largely because of Albers' model. But admitting, I'm not a talker, I'm a formulator. Friends, thanks for watching that thing all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. And, I'll be bringing you more and more great content from, different locations and different spots and all kinds of things, as I always do. And I really appreciate you for following this series and following my work and really supporting me as a professional artist and a master educator. And we'll see you next time. You have a good day.
Adios. Why don't you send me some postcards or call me on the telephone. Let me know how you're doing. We love you.